My name is Junha. Today, me and my friends are going to be sharing about the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. The disaster occurred on April 26, 1986 at Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine, which was then part of the Soviet Union. It is considered the worst nuclear disaster in history. The disaster happened during a late-night safety test that went catastrophically wrong, leading to a series of explosions and a massive release of radioactive materials into the atmosphere. The explosion blew off reactor 4, releasing radiation that was emitted to be 400 times more potent than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The immediate aftermath saw 2 plant workers die on the night of the explosion, and 28 emergency workers succumbed acute radiation syndrome within a few months. The long-term effect included thousands of cases of cancer and other radiation-induced illness. The disaster had profound environmental and health impacts, contaminating large areas of Europe and leading to the creation of a 30-kilometer exclusion zone around the plant. The Soviet government's initial secrecy and delayed response exacerbated the situation, contributing to widespread fear and mistrust.
Hello, I am BRINTHA and today I'll be discussing the environmental impact of the Chernobyl accident, one of the most catastrophic nuclear incidents in history. The accident led to the largest release of radioactive material ever recorded in a civilian operation, with radioactive substances being released into air continuously for about 10 days. This widespread release affected vast area, and the long-term environmental impact have been profound. One of the most striking consequences was in the rainforest near Chernobyl site. The intense radiation killed vast stretches of coniferous trees, creating a lifeless, barren landscape. Over the years, however, the area has been some regeneration. Deciduous tree species and various understory vegetation have slowly returned, signaling a shift in the ecosystem. In the aftermath of accident, radioactive material settled on open surfaces such as lawns, parks, roads, and rooftops, often spreading further through contaminated rain. While surface contamination in urban areas has gradually diminished due to natural processes like wind, rain, and traffic, as well as human cleanup efforts. This has led to secondary contamination challenges. Radioactive particles have been accumulated in sewage system and sludge storage sites, presenting ongoing environmental concern.
Forests around Chernobyl absorb large amounts of radioactivity such as cesium-137, which binds to soil particles where it spreads through wind and water. This contamination has lasting effects on biodiversity. For instance, studies on Scott pine in contaminated areas reveal significant growth reductions, especially in the most radioactive areas for the first 3 years after the accident. These growth reductions are linked to high radiation exposure, which decreased over time. In the early years post-accident, the direct deposition of radionuclides on plant leaves pose a greater contamination risk than those absorbed by roots. This is because, although rain is known to wash out radionuclides efficiently from the atmosphere, dry deposition causes a higher relative deposition on the plants and hence a higher surface activity on the plant surface. Next, the Chernobyl disaster led to widespread and lasting radioactive contamination of water bodies across Europe. Radioactive particles from the air directly settle on water surfaces and surrounding soils, with rainfall facilitating further runoff of contaminants into rivers and lakes. Radionuclides such as cesium-137 and strontium-90, which are long-lived isotopes, become predominant over time, resulting in more persistent contamination of aquatic environment. Soil erosion and desorption processes slowly releases these radionuclides into river water over time. In open systems like rivers and lakes, radionuclide concentration decreased relatively quickly as contaminants flushed out, while closed lake systems showed a different pattern as internal cycling of cesium-137 caused sustained high levels in water and aquatic organisms. Next, I will pass to Chai to talk about social impact.
Hi, I'm Chang. My metric number is S66127 and I will talk about the impact to social. There are over 300,000 people were unprofited and the region's mostly rural economy was devastated by the massive radionuclear explosion that occurred 30 years ago, which is regarded as one of the worst accidents in the history of the nuclear power industry. Significant psychological distress resulted from the incident. The dread of the radiation and the disruption of their lives caused anxiety, sadness, and post-traumatic stress disorder, which is PTSD in many people. Besides that, many people have suffered radiation sickness as a result of the targeted, and children in particular experience long-term health impact like thyroid cancer, significant psychological effect such as anxiety, sadness, and have also been experienced by survivors. Many people lost their jobs and means of income due to the evacuations and contamination of the lands, which lead to increasing provisions and social inequality. Agricultural lands, forests, and fisheries were contaminated, making them unusable.
Thank you, Chang. Now I will continue a bit more on impact analysis for social. As we all know from this tragedy of Chernobyl, many people have lost their job and means of income due to the evacuation and contamination of the land. This can lead to the poverty and social inequality when they come to a new place. Next, some of them will lose their identity, cultural heritage, and social cohesion due to leaving their ancestry land and close-knit community. Some of the family also facing discrimination as the other believe that they're coming to the new society carrying a high radiation level of radioactive.
So, for the next impact analysis that caused by the Chernobyl nuclear disaster is in the economic aspect. So, the first impact in the economic aspect is the infrastructure damage and reconstruction costs. A large-scale cleaning and reconstruction project were required in the impacted areas as a result of the tragedy, which resulted in expensive infrastructure rehabilitation and safety precaution. A significant government funding has been needed for this initiative, which has put further pressure on the public funds and reducing the amount of funds that are available for other important infrastructure projects. The second impact is a displacement and economic disruption. Due to their difficulty finding work in the new places, more than 350,000 people who were relocated from the contaminated areas suffered economic disruption, increased unemployment, social instability, and decreased investment, which also be slowing down the recovery effort and limiting the development potential.
Next, I'll be talking about immediate response and infrastructure costs. Between 1986 and 1989, the Soviet Union allocated around 9.2 billion rubles for evacuation, new housing, and also initial clean-up operation. Over 116,000 people were evacuated, and entire towns like Sulevetich were built to accommodate displaced workers and their family. Then we have losses in agriculture and forestry. Radiation contamination left 784,000 hectares of farmland and 694,000 hectares of forest unusable, which is leading to $1 billion in lost revenue. This was particularly damaging for Belarus and also Ukraine, where agriculture and forestry were economic staples for them. And lastly, we have long-term environmental monitoring and waste management. The continuous costs for monitoring decontamination and also waste containment remain high. The new safe confinement structure alone costs over $2 billion for safely enclose the reactor for the next century. Additionally, maintaining secure storage for radioactive waste in the exclusive zone continue to demand fund. In total, Chernobyl economic impact include all of the above, and which it still strained the budget of affected nationals to this day. And next, I'll be passing this presentation to RIZAL.
In conclusion, the Chernobyl disaster in 1986 was a catastrophic event resulting from a complex interplay of factors, including flawed-reactor design, operational errors, and lack of safety culture. The RBMK-1000 reactor used at Chernobyl was inherently unstable and prone to accident due to its positive void coefficient of reactivity. A series of human errors during a routine safety test, such as disabling safety system and violating operating procedure, further aggravated the situation. The resulting explosion and fire released large amount of radioactive material into the atmosphere, contaminating vast area of Europe and causing widespread environmental damage. The long-term health effect of the radiation exposure, including increased risk of cancer and other health problems, continue to affect exposed population. The Chernobyl disaster also had a profound impact on the global perception of nuclear power, leading to increased safety regulation and decline in public trust. The lessons learned from Chernobyl have been crucial in improving nuclear safety worldwide, but the disaster remained a stark reminder of the importance of safety in nuclear power and the devastating consequence of human error.
Hi, my name is SYAZWANA and my metric number is S68290. So today I want to continue about recommendation for this case. So the first recommendation is the nuclear safety and security legislation and regulation should be to improve. Several internationally binding conventions or protocols related to nuclear safety, emergency management, spent fuel and radioactive waste, 19 management, liability and the physical protection of nuclear material were developed and adopted. This includes strict regulatory oversight to ensure nuclear plants meet safety standards, regular risk assessments, and the adoption of advanced reactor design with the fail-safes that prevent overheating. Clear emergency response protocols, including evacuation plans and shelter-in-place options, should be established and practiced with nearby communities.
I'm HIDAYAH binti HAMDAN and my metric number S67903. For next recommendations is economic development and community empowerment. Firstly, central, regional and local governments need to cooperate to improve the business climate, encourage investment and support private sector development. Appropriate national policy need to be supplemented by a proactive approach to stimulating economic development at the regional and local levels. Secondly, encourage the creation and growth of small medium-sized enterprise in the affected area and in the adjacent towns and cities using the whole range of the business support techniques that have been tried and tested in other parts of the world. Thirdly, promote the rebuilding of community structure to replace those lost in the process of evacuations and the economic turmoil of 1990. Initiative designed to strengthen social interaction, particularly for the young, and promote community and economic leadership in towns and villages are needed to underpin sustainable recovery. That's all from us. Thank you.